Good morning, everyone. Hi, welcome to the United States Department of Agriculture. I'm so sorry to interrupt your networking and great conversations, but our program will be beginning in about 5 minutes, so I'd ask that you please take your seat, find a spot around a cocktail table or next to a friend, and we'll begin our program very shortly. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. If you could get your seats, we're going to start the program promptly. We've got plenty of seats left if some would like to be seated. Although given the size of the crowd, it doesn't look like we're going to get everybody in chairs, so that's great. Well, ladies and gentlemen and honored guests, welcome to the United States Department of Agriculture. My name is Ken Isley. I'm the administrator for the Foreign Agricultural Service Agency, and it's my pleasure to MC this ceremony today, where we will be announcing the recipients of the 2018 World Food Prize Laureates. It's the most prestigious award in agriculture. First, however, I'd like to acknowledge the persons behind me who will be speaking today. We have Undersecretary Bill Northey. We have Ambassador Quinn. We have Dr. Ajeta. We have Assistant Secretary Singh and Undersecretary Mckinney. And we'll provide a little bigger announcements or broader introductions at their time to speak. Before I go any further, I understand that there's some past laureates in our presence, and we would like to acknowledge them. So if you're seated, please stand up. If you're already standing, please raise a hand. So past laureate members, please stand if you're a past laureate recipient. Well, this is the second year that the USDA has had the privilege to host this ceremony. However, USDA's involvement goes back to the beginning when Dr. Norman Borlaug, the recipient of the 1970 Nobel Peace Prize, envisioned an award to honor individuals who have made significant contributions to improve food security throughout the world. The World Food Prize plays an important role in highlighting the contributions of leaders in agriculture to eliminate hunger and malnutrition through R&D, innovation, economic development, and poverty reduction. So without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Undersecretary Bill Northey. Bill Northey is the Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation at USDA. His mission area includes the Farm Service Agency, the Risk Management Agency, the National Resource and Conservation Service. Prior to joining USDA, Undersecretary Northey served as the state of Iowa's Secretary of Agriculture for nearly 12 years. He is now responsible for providing exemplary customer service to Americans all over the country involved in farming, ranching, and forestry. So, with no further ado, Undersecretary Northey.
Well, thank you, Ken. Thank you all. Again, thank you for being here. Welcome to USDA. It is certainly my pleasure to be here, say a few comments about the World Food Prize, and certainly let me see a show of hands for anybody who has been in Iowa for a laureates awarding and the week that goes along with it. Wow. Thank you all for traveling and being a part of that, and certainly one of the motivations for you to be here because you appreciate what a significant event today is, and how significant an awarding of the World Food Prize is to the laureate or laureates, as well as the opportunity to be able to share with the world the kinds of exciting things that are happening in agriculture. And I would argue one of the things that the World Food Prize has done so well, certainly under the vision of Norman Borlaug and the efforts of Ambassador Quinn, are to expand that, not only tell that story of what that laureate has done, laureate or laureates, but also to be able to share with the rest of us, and certainly young people that are thinking of investing their lives, that investment in feeding people and the technology that goes with that is very rewarding. Whether it's financially rewarding or not, or where you live, are important things, but the opportunity to be able to participate with the kinds of folks that the World Food Prize recognizes, the folks that come together to be able to celebrate this award is something that is very, very worthwhile. And certainly for all of you, that are thinking of that investment in your future, certainly strongly consider the kinds of things that you'll hear just a little bit about these laureate or laureates today. Let me certainly invite you as well, as Ambassador Quinn will, I'm sure, and that's to come to Iowa. This is a gathering of maybe 12 to 1,500 people from 50 to 75 or 80 countries, all about agriculture, all about gathering to talk about the technologies, and all the technologies we're talking about, from manufacturing technology, marketing, nutrition, economics, poverty alleviation, economic activity around the development of food, and the challenges of all that, and folks sharing their experiences, sharing their vision, being motivated. There are folks that come very excited for the events of the World Food Prize, and I would argue leave even more excited about the opportunities that are there. And the impact extends well beyond that week as the Food Prize and Foundation have focused on this next generation and the investment in people. I would say one of the most important things is to recognize that our most challenging issues this world has to offer, and certainly one of those is feeding people, the solution is in people. And the investment of the World Food Prize is in people past for their contributions, certainly people in the future as well, and the World Food Prize does that so well. And I would argue one of the reasons that it does it so well is because of the leadership of Ambassador Quinn. And our next speaker will be Ambassador Quinn, who I consider a great friend. I call him Ken as much as I do Ambassador, and I know that's a faux pas, but what a great friend and what a great leader. He served 32 years for the State Department, 3.5 years of that as Ambassador to Cambodia in the late 90s, through a terribly challenging time for those of you that know that history in the late 90s. You get him off to the side and get a conversation about the experiences that he had there, and you will appreciate the service of our Foreign Service and all our folks that spend time for us, serving us overseas. He has spent almost 20 years now. Next year will be his 20th year as the president of the World Food Prize. And he provides a passion that has provided so much more support, that has meant the Food Prize has so much more reach than it did 20 years ago, in a way that his legacy is tremendous. And it's not over yet. It's not over yet. There is no way that it's over yet. Ken has done a great job, and certainly helped me welcome Ken Quinn and helped me thank Ken Quinn for his great leadership as president of the World Food Prize.
Thank you. Wow. So, thank you so much, Secretary Northey, distinguished ambassadors, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Congressman David Young, our congressman from the 3rd District, where the World Food Prize is. Thank you so much for being here. And Mrs. Barbara Grassley, wife of Senator Chuck Grassley, thank you as well. Please, Senator Grassley, such a great friend to the World Food Prize, and tell him we send our warmest regards. And I want to thank Secretary Northey, thank you, and Undersecretary Mckinney for hosting this event, presiding today. Please convey our thanks to Secretary Perdue. And also, though, I want to say thank you to USDA for the wonderful partnership that we have in inspiring young American students for careers in agriculture and agricultural science. You know, we have a wonderful high school program. We encourage high school students to get interested in global food security. And then when they're in college, they can apply to become Wallace Carver Fellows. And we've had now in the past 6 years or so over 200 Wallace Carver Fellows. They come, they spend a summer here at USDA. This year we have 30. Some of them are here today. Raise your hands back there. And there they are, the Wallace Carver Fellows class of 2018. But thank you so much for that. And I want to recognize some of the senior leaders at USDA who make this possible. Deputy Undersecretary Shavonda Jacobs-Young, who's here, also administrator of ARS. She was also the speaker at the Iowa Youth Institute. She wowed the students. Mary Bowman, the administrator of Economic Research Service, and Ken Isley, the administrator of the Foreign Ag Service. They provide the jobs for these Wallace Carver Fellows. Ed Nippling is here, the former administrator of ARS and longtime friend and partner with us. Ed, thank you so much. So glad you could be here as well. There's so many representatives of international organizations, friends, partners, collaborators. I can't name everybody, but a few people I want to be sure to recognize. From our Council of Advisors, Peter McPherson, the president of APLU, former Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, Administrator of USAID, and Paul Schickler, the immediate past president of DuPont Pioneer, and he and his wife, Claudia, are generous supporters of our youth education programs. So I'm so glad you could be here. As well, Jürgen Vogeli is here from the World Bank. He broke away from the celebrations of the German victory in the World Cup. Be here, that's still going on. And Vimlendra Sharan, the head of the UN FAO office. So glad you could be here with us today. And Assistant Secretary Manisha Singh and is here representing the State Department, and we so appreciate that. And please tell Secretary Pompeo how grateful we are for your presence. But there are also several former friends and colleagues, distinguished ambassadors and diplomats who are here. I want to be sure John Negroponte was the Director of National Intelligence and a State Department colleague at the National Security Council. Ambassador Stapleton Roy here is our ambassador to China, a colleague of mine. Doug Paul, who worked together at the NSC and on China. Ambassador Tony Hall, and Ambassador Carol Rodley is here. And you heard Secretary Northey talk about Cambodia. She and I were in Cambodia together and went through all of those dangerous things, and she was an incredible partner and a very brave partner in days when we had an embassy that had no Marine guards and in a dangerous situation. So Carol, Ambassador Rodley, thank you so much for being here as well. And I'm so glad we have such a large representation from the diplomatic corps. But you know, beforehand, I was out here and chatting, and one of the new ambassadors who just arrived said to me, I'm glad to be here, but what exactly is the World Food Prize? So I'm trying to think, how do you in 20 seconds or so come up with something contemporary context? And I said, well, you know, it's a $250,000 prize given to well, it's like this. It's the World Food Prize is the World Cup of Agriculture. Okay? It's this $250,000 prize that's given to the person who scores the most goals in terms of reducing hunger, malnutrition around the world. So our laureates they're like Ronaldo, but of agriculture. And but it was created, as you heard, by Dr. Norman Borlaug, born in Iowa, raised on a farm, went to the University of Minnesota, became a plant pathologist. But he did get that start at USDA as an intern, as a summer, just like one of Wallace Carver Fellows. Maybe the next Norman Borlaug is back there. And Borlaug then went off to Mexico and worked with the very poorest farmers in remote areas and developed miracle wheat, high-yielding, disease-resistant wheat, which in the 1960s he took to India and Pakistan and South Asia as they faced imminent famine, mass starvation, and likely millions, if not hundreds of millions, of deaths. And they adapted Borlaug's seeds and his approach to agriculture, and they went from deficits to self-sufficiency to exporting in 5 years. And for rising to that challenge, Borlaug was called to Oslo in 1970 to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. First person from agriculture to get that award, and I believe the first person ever from USDA to be a Nobel laureate. But in 1986, he created the World Food Prize to be the equivalent of the Nobel Prize for Food and Agriculture. And since then, 46 individuals have been chosen to be World Food Prize laureates, and they come from 18 countries and the United Nations, and have been recognized for a vast array of achievements in many disciplines. But they all share in common is, like Borlaug, they rose to the challenge. They scored goals by increasing the quality, quantity, and availability of food in the world, reducing hunger and malnutrition. That's what Howard Buis did, our 2016 laureate who stood up in biofortification. That's what Dr. Gebisa Ejeta did. And I'm so glad, Christina, you could be here with Howdy as well. But Dr. Ejeta, our 2009 laureate from Ethiopia and Purdue, what he did in sorghum. But he's here on the stage because of a very special role he is playing as the chairman of our laureate selection committee. For the first 32 years, Dr. Borlaug was the chair, and then the last decade, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, who was Borlaug's partner and collaborator in starting the Green Revolution. And now, Dr. Ejeta has been chosen by our Council of Advisors to succeed them. And our Council of Advisors was clearly stating its judgment that his intellectual acumen and personal integrity and accomplishments would continue that legacy and build upon it. So, Dr. Ejeta, could you please stand so we could recognize you for your achievements and your role as chair of our... Okay, so now to the business at hand. I'm going to announce, reveal to you the names of two persons who Dr. Ejeta and his committee selected to be the 2018 World Food Prize laureates. Two individuals who also rose to the challenge, who through their individual and complementary global leadership elevated the issue of maternal and child undernutrition to the forefront of the global food security agenda, thus inspiring extraordinary results at national and international levels. One laureate was a pioneer in nutrition research, first at the International Food Policy Research Institute here in Washington, where he worked with Dr. Howard Buis, and then at the Institute of Development Studies in the United Kingdom. By using both economic and medical research, he called attention to the devastating human toll caused by undernutrition in the first years of a child's life. And thereby he convinced development leaders to make enhanced child nutrition an urgent priority. The other laureate, a champion of public health within the United Nations, was directly responsible for leading the global effort to unite 54 countries and one Indian state under the Scaling Up Nutrition, or SUN, movement. And through this initiative, these countries joined forces to implement evidence-based policies and programs. And together, our 2018 laureates' work significantly improved nutrition for mothers and children in the critical first 1,000 days of life. That period from pregnancy to a child's second birthday. For it's during this period that without sufficient nutrition, mental and physical stunting occurs. And as the renowned author Roger Thoreau, and Roger is here today, thank you, Roger, for, there, down here, sorry, I'm looking for you in the back, and you're here. But Roger Thoreau has written and said, quote, "Stunting is a life sentence of underachievement and underperformance," close quote. Through their leadership, our laureates have inspired efforts by governments and by countless thousands and thousands of others, which between 2012 and 2017 reduced the number of stunted children in the world by 10 million. 10 million fewer children stunted due to undernutrition. And those improvements have come in countries around the globe, some of which are represented here today. Bangladesh, Nepal, Malawi, Tanzania, Kenya, Ghana. Bill Gates, co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, said of our laureates, quote, "Like Norman Borlaug before them, they have dedicated their careers to reducing hunger and malnutrition. Their work has deepened our understanding of nutrition's impact, not only on individual health, but on human capital and economic growth, compelling leaders in countries across the world to invest in evidence-based solutions," end quote. For their relentless advocacy and leadership, which so dramatically reduced the number of stunted children in the world. It's my privilege to announce that the 2018 World Food Prize Laureates are Dr. Lawrence Haddad and Dr. David Nabarro, both of the United Kingdom. So I'm very pleased that Andrew Price and Tom Kelly of the British Embassy could be here to join us. Dr. Haddad and Dr. Nabarro will receive the World Food Prize in a ceremony at the Iowa State Capitol building on the evening of October 18. It's the centerpiece of our Borlaug Dialogue Symposium. Everybody who's raised their hand, you know you want to come again. Everybody who hasn't, you need to sign up on July 9th. Rise to the challenge and go to our website, worldfoodprize.org, and register. Come, seats are going to go fast, and you want to be there to see that and be part of our program. But reflecting the achievements of our 2018 laureates, the theme for our Borlaug Dialogue is Rise to the Challenge. Rise to confront the question of whether we can nutritiously and sustainably feed the 9 to 10 billion people who will be on our planet by 2050. With the inspiration of Dr. Norman Borlaug, all of our World Food Prize laureates and our new laureates, and the work of all of you, we can rise to the challenge and meet the greatest challenge in human history. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador Quinn. And after all those great introductions, I'm going to change my title to Assistant MC, so thank you for that. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who is the Assistant Secretary of the U.S. State Department, Manisha Singh. She was unanimously confirmed by the Senate in November 2017. She now serves by leading a team of more than 200 State Department employees in the Bureau of Economic and Business Affairs. She is responsible for advancing American prosperity, including in the agriculture industry, through entrepreneurship and innovation worldwide. Assistant Secretary Singh.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the USDA, Secretary Perdue, and his wonderful team of people, including Administrator Isley, Undersecretary Mckinney, Undersecretary Northey, for their great commitment in holding this event here today. And of course, in particular, I want to thank Ambassador Quinn and Dr. Ajeta for your commitment to ending hunger and food insecurity all over the world. It's my pleasure to be here with you today on behalf of Secretary Pompeo. He sends his greetings and his congratulations to our winners today. I also want to recognize the members of the State Department's Agriculture Office here who work very closely with the USDA and with our economic officers and Foreign Agriculture Service all over the world. We, of course, want to congratulate Dr. Lawrence Haddad, and Dr. David Nabarro, this year's World Food Prize winners, on their tireless work to end maternal and child undernutrition. As we all know, food insecurity takes the greatest toll on the most vulnerable of our populations, which is women and children. And that's why the work of Dr. Haddad and Dr. Nabarro is so important. It also contributes to global unrest and instability, and therefore the role of the State Department as a force multiplier overseas for the USDA and agriculture industry is so essential. At embassies and posts all over the world, our economic officers are opening new markets for U.S. agriculture exports, expanding global access to agriculture biotechnology, and, like our winners, working to end global food insecurity and undernutrition. I commend the World Food Prize Foundation and our winners for their groundbreaking contributions and for emphasizing that poor nutrition in early childhood can lead to fewer educational opportunities, poor development, and ultimately economic decline. Dr. Haddad and Dr. Nabarro have met this challenge head-on, and for the first time ever, gained commitments from governments, NGOs, donor agencies, and private sector partners to make nutrition a top development priority. That just doesn't take just leadership, it takes vision. And of course, our original visionary in ending global hunger was Dr. Norman Borlaug. I feel a special connection to Dr. Borlaug because my grandparents were subsistence farmers in India not so long ago. In the late 1960s, my father studied agronomy under the tutelage of Dr. Norman Borlaug and eventually came to the United States to do a PhD in agronomy here in the US. So I feel a very special connection to the World Food Prize Foundation and Dr. Norman Borlaug, as it is an essential part of my family's history in coming to this country. The State Department and the United States government remain committed to global food security as a component of our economic and national security strategies. Let's all continue to work together for this important global goal. And again, we extend our heartiest congratulations to our winners today for their very important work. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Secretary Singh. And now I would like to introduce Undersecretary Ted Mckinney. He was director of the Department of Agriculture in the state of Indiana, and then accepted an appointment as Undersecretary for the newly formed mission at USDA, Trade and Foreign Agricultural Affairs. In this role, Undersecretary Mckinney promotes U.S. ag products abroad and has a key voice in the administration for trade policy related to agriculture. He has been a tireless world traveler and an advocate for U.S. farmers and ranchers. And with that, I give you Undersecretary Mckinney.
Thank you, Ken, very, very much. And to my colleagues up on the stage, thank you for joining us here. Bill Northey, my colleague from Department of Ag Days in the States, and Ken Quinn, a longtime friend. It's good to see you again. And of course, Gabisa, the Purdue connections remain strong. Thank you and congratulations. And Secretary Singh, you've got your own credibility to be up here and talk this story. So thank you all. And to all of you, just as an aside, how many of you noticed that when Ambassador Quinn announced the two winners, the sun shone just a little brighter? Did you feel it? I kid you not. Maybe it was just up on the stage, but it felt just a little bit brighter. So I think we've got a little assistance from those even outside the room in our cause of food and ag feeding a world. I tell you, I'm a lucky guy. And I dare say all of you are lucky to be here, because we get to embrace and work in a cause that's so much larger than any one of us. We get to engage in a cause that grows and processes and delivers and ultimately feeds people around the world. We sustain life. And in that way, the joy of being here is that we all are in one way or another, in our own way, promoting life. We're changing lives. My own first experience was as a young 4-H junior leader when we had a lot of tomatoes in Tipton County, Indiana, and migrant workers would come through, and some were in need, and we got to help, and that was my first experience with helping someone who may not have been as fortunate as I on the farm. And I get experiences every day to relive that kind of thing, but more recently was on a trip to Guatemala where I saw firsthand, for the first time ever, a McGovern Dole, or as Bob Dole would say it, the Dole-McGovern Act. We got to see young children being fed. And it pulls at your heartstring and maybe even sheds a tear or two when you recognize that a third of those kids in that school, that would be their only meal of the day. So I hearken back to what Dr. Borlaug was all about. I was lucky. Ken and I were fortunate in that Norman was on the Environmental Advisory Council of the company that we worked for. And what a great guy of great humor and wisdom. I got to sit beside him on some of those meetings, and he would laugh at this as well. On those rare occasions when the battery was going low on his hearing aid and this shrill pitch was heard by everybody but him, to the very, very command he had of people who were, they might think equally his peers, but he could easily put in place someone who might be strident, too strident on a regulation, and say, leave it to the farmer, take it to the farmer, and the room would go quiet, and that settled that. So we were fortunate to have come to know Norman Borlaug. And since then, his granddaughter Julie, everybody I think knows Julie and the enthusiasm she sustains on behalf of the family. But really this is to all of you, because we all have our own story or our own stories. We all have our work, daily or not so daily, in helping promote all the vision that I think Norm Borlaug would want us to continue. And I think it's not just by chance. And one of the reasons I'm excited that USDA gets to host this event, because this site for USDA, the only federal agency on the historic mall, was selected by none other than then President Abraham Lincoln. He chose this because of the significance of the mall, and as importantly, he said, this shall be known as the People's Department. And I don't think he was just referencing the people of Washington, D.C., or even the people of the U.S. I think he was probably referencing in many ways the people of the world, which you all represent, because I see so many I know out there. I see academia, I see government, I see private sector, I see retirees, I see friends from our embassies, I see NASDA and our state colleagues out there. I see new young people joining us with the Carver Scholarship Award winners. And by the way, I want to meet all of you at some point. So we're all coming together to lift ourselves up for a greater cause than any one of us can behold, and that is to advance the cause of food and nutrition to sustain life. So my only parting coaching words of wisdom to myself and to all of you, and this comes from the heart and the head, is let's go out and sustain what I think Dr. Norman Borlaug envisioned for all this, and let's go make a difference in the world. Thank you all for being here. It's our great joy to host you. And Ambassador, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Undersecretary Mckinney. And to close, I'd like to thank everyone for being here, but more particularly, thank you for everything you do to increase food security, nutrition, ag development, and trade throughout the world. Now I invite you to enjoy each other's company, stay in the Witten patio, and enjoy a reception here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So good to see you again. Yeah, I'm going to see you in Des Moines.
Nice to meet you.